after starting. Okay, so if I'm correct, I started. Have I sent you my not my Discord, sorry, my Twitch channel link?
Yes. I've
Okay.
sent it to my communities as well.
Oh, you have it. Okay, nice. Okay. Um, okay, let me announce that I have started. And after that, we can do a quality check.
Excellent.
My mind is a bit foggy, to be honest, with this hot weather. Sorry if I'm a bit slower than usual.
Oh, you're A-okay.
Okay. I made the announcements. Okay, let me check if everything is correct on my end. The title is correct. Okay, let me go back to my dashboard. And it's loading so slow for me. Handsome devil detected, somebody is saying. Hi everyone. Okay, so yeah, let me sit into my original position. Wake up and smell the silver days, baby. Okay, I don't know why it has popped for me. Let me just close Skype. Okay. Okay, so I will need everyone to tell us if the quality of the stream is good. If it's not lagging, please let us know, and then we can start. Welcome, Sleepy. Welcome, Call Me. So yeah, we discussed that at the end of the stream, our guest and good friend here will answer the questions of yours. So keep that in mind, please. So
Yep, down for anything.
I won't look at the chat during our interview, but only at the end of the stream. And you will be also able to watch back as a VOD, and I will also make an edited version in all the gameplay segments and the topics that we will be talking about. So also a good thing to know for the viewers. És DDR, ez felfegyver, üdvözlöm mindenkinek, jó a minőség, hölgyek, urak. So yeah, basically I'm a Hungarian guy from Budapest, so I speak English, Hungarian, and Russian, so please don't mind me speaking in Hungarian at the beginning. Okay, is it good? Everything is good? Minden jó, hölgyek, urak?
Sounds like we're good.
Very good? Okay. Okay, let's start. Is it okay for you to start? Are you down?
Yeah,
Nice. Okay,
let's
so
begin.
welcome everyone. This is the very newest episode of Dev Live show of mine, and I'm here with a good friend of us who is making his new game. And yeah, I'm very honored and very thankful that you are making a great game for us, dear Sawyer.
Of
And
course.
thank you for being here. I'm very honored and very thankful that you are
Thanks
here
for
with
having
us.
me.
And yeah, like always, I would like to have a little bit of introduction from you.
Yeah, my name is Sawyer Friend. I create quality character-driven RPGs.
Okay.
We're working on our third game right now. It's called Silver Days. And I also created Axial Disc 1 and Disc 2.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so like I'm always saying, for me it's very important to hear the people's origin stories about like how they all started playing video games. So it's very interesting for me to
Oh,
see and
man.
hear like how they set up their childhood as a gamer. So what's your story behind that?
So you can definitely blame my older sister for this.
Okay.
Um, she's a lot older than me. She's like 9 years older than me, and she was a huge gamer So when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I was already growing up with an N64 controller in my hand. The first video game that I personally like owned was it was on a Game Boy Advance. It was Mario and
Okay,
Luigi Superstar Saga. But even before then, I was playing Kingdom Hearts and Mario Party and all of that.
nice.
It's been a part of my life basically as long as I can remember. Um, as for game development, though, originally I actually wanted to be an author,
Oh,
but
okay,
I
interesting.
realized that telling stories in all kinds of mediums is what really speaks to me.
Okay,
And video games have this unique quality of like they've got the writing element that a book would have. They also have like the cinematography of a film. You've got the music and you've got the gameplay element, which
true,
is
true.
unique to video games. So to me personally, it's just the best of everything when it comes to a storytelling medium.
Okay. And so when you were telling us that you wanted to be an author, so like what made you like not writing books but making games? So where was the switch in your life? What at what period of your life?
Man, that's difficult. I know it happened in fourth grade
Okay,
when I was about 9 or 10 years old.
okay,
That's like I don't remember what exactly the catalyst for it was, but one day I just realized like designing video games is just where I want to go with this.
okay.
I think it was when I was playing Lego Star Wars on the PS2 of all things,
Nice.
and I just really wanted to create my own Lego sets, and I was coming up with like I had like a little notebook, and I would write down ideas for like new playable characters and what their moves would be and stuff. I'm like, this is really fun.
Nice.
So
Okay.
yeah, ever since I've always had like a little notebook, or now I use my phone for this, but just
Okay.
writing down every little game design idea that comes to mind.
Okay. And were there like books that you have finished and you wanted to like publish them before you became a developer or started on this route of yours?
I never actually finished a novel before. The
Okay.
closest I got was with Axial Disc One. Actually, we didn't at the time when I was first getting into it. I wasn't very confident in my skills as a programmer. So my idea was I would write this whole thing as a book first,
Okay.
and then once I figure out how to program, we would just take the entire book and just kind of inject it into the game just as a script. But I ended up figuring out way faster than I thought. So I wrote like the first 5 or 6 chapters, and then suddenly it's just like, oh, okay, we can make the game now. So we'll just make the game, cut the middleman. So yeah, the book is still sitting there on like a Google Drive of mine. It's like a fourth of the story.
I see. Okay. And is it important you now as a developer to first like make the story as a full and after that you design the other things of the game like the gameplay aspects, the graphics, the music?
Um, so I do usually start with a story concept.
Okay.
Almost everything is informed by the story for me. So
Yeah.
the gameplay will be based on the characters and such. I don't think I kind of start with a big picture, and then as I develop, I slowly narrow down into the granular details. So with Silver Days, for example, I started off with it was actually a very different concept. It wasn't working for us after we tested the prototype. But it was originally going to be like a slice of life RPG where you play as a high schooler and he just goes about his daily life in the ludic form of an RPG. We had to change it around a little bit because the prototype wasn't working. People weren't really feeling it. So I came up with the idea of like the world is frozen. You're going on an adventure with your friends from high school, and then as we decided that was starting to work, that's when we start to narrow down and feel out like who are the characters, what are their problems, what's causing the world to get
I
frozen
see.
like this, and now that we're like in the heat of developing, that's when we get to the real nitty gritty of like what exactly the dialogue is and the character traits and such.
Okay. Okay. And you were talking about like back then you did not have enough confidence to finish your novels. So when you started making games, were you developing your confidence by making games? Do you feel like you developed more confidence of the storytelling part?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I honestly, my biggest piece of advice for anyone is to just jump into it because you're not really gonna know you're ready until you have to do it.
True. True.
So I think once I just decided to just get started, just cast away my inhibitions and all that, I really got going. Like, it took me about 1 year to create the demo for Axial Disc One. And then after that, I finished the rest of the game in another year. Like the first 30 minutes of the game took just as long as the last like 12 hours of content. So yeah, it's just the kind of thing. Once you get going, once you start, like it's very easy to maintain the momentum and just keep on developing.
Okay. And so by making games, were there times when you like missing writing just books, or you like regret not making and publishing just books?
There are things that I miss about the written narrative.
Okay.
Like, you know, I can't just explain what like something looks like through prose in a video game, at least not in a way that I feel is elegant. Um, like it's something I do kind of miss, but it's not something I regret in any sense.
I see. Okay.
Making games is absolutely my passion. That's where my heart lies. So I don't miss it so much that I wish I could go back. But you know, there are things about writing that are unique to that narrative medium that I do still enjoy.
And do you have like in as for future plans to finish a book or to write a book, even if
Not
you're
at the
developing a
moment.
game? Okay.
Right now, I'm still working on games. I'm very open to the idea of trying other mediums. I'd love to try film or maybe writing a book, but I like to work on one big project at a time.
Or you could
So,
also like
as
write the book out of having the story from your games, right? That could also work.
oh yeah, yeah, I do think it's a good idea. I don't have any immediate plans for that, but I'm open to the concept.
Yeah, because like it would be like a collector's edition thing, for the
Yeah,
people who are down to, have physical editions. Yeah, nice. Okay.
yeah, I definitely think people would be into that.
Okay, nice, nice. Okay, so you mentioned that you are working now on Silver Days, but like you mentioned, you also have two other games that you made before. So
Yeah,
when you started like making games, you already like had the story for your very first game, right? Is that correct?
yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
correct.
And so what was the idea behind that? So what influenced you making that story?
So, okay, this is a little embarrassing. I usually don't talk about this often.
You
But
gotta be
originally
honest,
it
and
was
we appreciate being honest.
yeah,
So
it was basically a fan fiction for Kingdom Hearts that my friends and I
okay,
were sharing.
okay,
Um, and eventually, like I liked the characters that we like the original characters and concepts that we made so much that I was like, this is wasted on a fan fiction, you know. So I took all of those characters and we basically created a brand new story using the themes and characters from the fan fiction. It's basically unrecognizable at this point, but that's how it began. Uh, my friends still influenced the story as we were developing the game, but for the most part, all of the creative decisions were mine once we decided to go from that version of the story into a video game form.
okay. I see. And were there like parts in your life when you started your very first game that you were like very sad about the decision that you are putting into the story and you weren't sure if it's good or not?
Well, we always have our moments of uncertainty.
Okay.
It was never something that really affected me to the point where it was like a genuine problem for
Okay.
development. I've always been a little more confident, maybe than I should be, a little overconfident. But yeah,
It's not
I
bad
feel
in my
like I've
opinion.
always
Like you
known.
have to be. I always say that it's better to be more confident because like you can take away from that level. But if you are not confident enough, it's very hard to push yourself to a higher level, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if I had to choose between the two, I'll take overconfidence any
True,
day.
true, true. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and that's really helpful for me actually because like I've never been in a situation where I genuinely felt that the game would not happen. You
Okay.
know, I always tell people it's a little morbid, but the only thing short of me finishing this game would be my untimely demise.
But I totally understand that. Like it's a passion, and you gotta be
Yeah,
like very strict about yourself if you want to release a game, right? So
absolutely.
okay. And so on the developing process of making all these games, how have you been changing like as a person and also a developer? So what you learned from developing these games?
Oh, that is a difficult question. It's something I've been thinking a lot about actually
Okay.
because 2023 in particular was a year that I spent a lot of time changing. Basically, my entire paradigm shifted, in part because I began working on Silver Days. I worked on Axial. I started it in basically 2017. The idea for the story happened in 2012. So I basically spent 11 years on this concept, and I was finally shifting over to a brand new game. So it was a very turbulent time for me. My philosophies have changed a little. Uh, I usually like to tell people to make your favorite game,
Okay.
and I still adhere to that. I absolutely try to inject what my own personal preferences are in a game because if I'm passionate about it, it's going to come out good. I want to put my best foot forward. But I've come around to being a little more open to um, being a little more objective about what looks good in a video game.
Okay.
Um, being more willing to listen to other people's opinions. That doesn't mean that I'm easily swayed by just what everyone else wants. I don't like to play to the crowd,
True. True.
but nevertheless, like I think it is really important to listen to a second opinion and be open to what other people think, which is something I wasn't quite willing to accept when I first began.
Okay. And is it a thing that you were changing on as a person as well, not just a developer? That you wasn't like listening to others' opinions, but you changed by being a developer in your
Yeah,
personal life too?
I think it has helped me become a little more collaborative
Okay.
overall,
Okay.
being able to work with other people and realize like their opinions matter and such. Um, it's hard for me to really analyze how I used to think about people because nowadays, like I have become a lot more open to collaboration and working as part of a team. Um, but I do feel like when I was a lot younger, and I guess by younger I mean like 4 years younger, I definitely was much more of a
You are
lone
still
wolf.
young, right?
Oh yeah, I'm only
We are
24,
all
so like
young playing
I'm still
games.
very young.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I do think I've definitely grown as a collaborator and as someone that can
Okay.
work on a team.
Okay. Nice.
Leadership isn't just about being the one who calls the shots, but it's
True.
also
True.
about
True. That's
getting
all.
everyone onto the same page and
True.
listening to everyone, letting everyone
True.
have a voice.
Do you agree on that? Um, as a developer, you should have your own voice and not like let everyone's decision, like not as a your team members, I would say, but the player's decision, like where changed or change your mind pretty much. Like you have to be strict about
Oh
your
yes, that's
opinions. Do you believe in that?
that is important to me. Yeah,
Okay.
I feel the audience that would like your game, they'll find you.
True. True. Okay.
There is a degree there's a degree that you should be listening to what your players say. Something I always like to remind myself of is if someone who really loves my game has something negative to say about it, I should be listening to them the most because they're the ones that already like what I'm making.
True. True.
So that's telling me if I'm on the right track and they like this, but they don't like this aspect, I should be particularly focused on that aspect.
Okay.
I do think that you should be listening to the opinions of everyone. I think all feedback is good feedback, even if it doesn't seem very helpful, because you can sit down with it and analyze it inside. Is this where I want the game to go? And even if you decide, no, the feedback isn't valid to me, you at least got to think about it and it opened a different perspective to you.
True. And you will also be able to learn about the person who wrote it, right, or said it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the things I love about playing other people's games. I actually run a beta testing server for RPGs,
Okay.
and I feel like I've created such an intimate connection with other developers just by playing their games and being able to basically have like a one-on-one personal communication with them through their art. So much of your soul, especially when you're a really tiny developer like most of us are, so much of your soul goes into your work,
True.
and
True.
you can just feel them through
I
there. You know?
totally agree with you on that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so, like you said, as an author and making these stories of the games, were there like very much of your own experiences through your life that were put into your games, like your experiences, your memories about, for example, your loved
Absolutely.
ones and friends? or a special message from your life?
Yeah, I run with the philosophy that everything in life is a learning experience,
Okay.
especially for art. Um, I do a lot of research, playing video games, of course. But it's not just that; it's just living life. I went to the amusement park with my coworkers a couple weeks ago, and that gave me so many ideas, in terms of character relationships, in terms of things that can happen in a game. Um, I think it was less of a thing with Axial, my first game.
Okay.
I injected a lot of my own personal philosophies into it. But with Silver Days, that game is very informed by my personal
Okay.
experiences. The original concept came to me in 2018, when my girlfriend at the time, she was a little distant, and I just came up with this little idea in my head, like, oh, maybe she's got a lot going on, and she's on some sort of adventure of her own, and I should try to see things from that perspective. I carried that idea with me for a long time, and hilariously, 2023 came around, and I had a different breakup, and that made me like realize, like, I'm about to start this game. I Clearly these personal feelings are surfacing once again. I should channel this into this game. So
Nice.
it's
Okay.
a very personal project for me, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Very nice. Very nice story. Okay. Author in you, right? The author in you.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I love that. I love that. Okay. So, and when you first started your very first game that you were talking about, like, what was the hardest part about like starting to make your own game? What do you think
Ooh,
was
the
the
most
hardest
difficult
part?
part, I would say it was, well, I guess the easy answer would be programming.
Okay.
I was never a very good coder. Finally, with Silver Days, I've
Was
started
it
to break
like
out
you
of my
were
shell a little bit.
learning from very zero experience, or you had experience before?
It was close to zero.
Okay.
When I was a very small child, I would play around with Scratch. It's
Okay.
a very rudimentary, MIT. It's like a block based scripting language. So I did understand like the basics of if thens and, all that stuff. But learning JavaScript, where everything is as open as the English language and Latin characters, it was very intimidating. But I think philosophically speaking, the most difficult part really was just staying on track and allowing myself to breathe a little. Sometimes you get so caught up in like this game has to happen that you just let it consume your life, and any day that you take a day off, you're just kind of beating yourself up over not working on it. But in reality, like, you need to take your time off. You need to live your life, because living life is how you create a better artwork. If you
True.
sit in
True.
your home all day and all you do is program and write your game, it's going to be informed through nothing. You won't have any experiences to draw from.
Were there
So that
times?
was something I needed to remind myself of a lot.
Okay. Nice. Okay. So, and were there times when you like take a break from like making your game, and that was the time when your most or best ideas came? Can you think of like
I would say
examples?
so.
Okay. And can
Yeah.
you name some examples
I
for
like to
us?
go. Yeah, I like to go on walks a lot.
Okay. Okay.
I would beat myself up over this for a while, because I would go. I'm kind of nocturnal, so I would go out at like 12 a.m., 1 a.m., and I would just walk in the park
Totally
and just
random, I
listen to
guess. Totally
music.
random, I guess. Yeah. So
Yeah,
random
it's
times,
just
random times. I mean,
bizarre.
yeah.
I'd have this just strange urge to go on a walk, and every time I do, I'd listen to music, and the music would just inform me of something about the characters of the story that
Nice, nice.
hadn't
Okay.
crossed my mind.
Okay.
You know, for Axial, in particular, I remember I was listening to this one song. I don't even remember what the song was, but it just told me like, this character in Axial is, he's filled with guilt, and I never realized that until I was just listening to the song. I was thinking, this is about that character. It's just, it's funny how everything in life can communicate into your art if you just listen to it.
Do you think it's because the creator behind these games, like you of your game, is so passionate about his or her project that he always thinks about it and he connects everything to that point of his or her life?
Yeah, I don't think everyone has to do that,
Okay.
but I certainly do.
But it works for you,
It's just
right?
something. Yeah, I can't help it. It's that it is my life.
But
it's
that's
as
a very
important
nice
as
thing
breathing to
because
me.
you are influenced by everything, so you can see everything as an influence as for your games that you make
Yeah,
and your stories. Yeah, but
yeah,
you
it's very helpful. I kind of lament it sometimes that like I can't just like give this to other people. You know, I can't force them to be as obsessed with their art as I am.
true, true.
A lot of people like they come to me for advice sometimes. They'll ask me like how do you do it? And it's like I just care that much, you know. I can't make you care about your game any more than you already do.
True, true, true. They have to learn that skill, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, okay. So, and when you first released your game, very first game, what was the plan? So, were your plans like just make a PC game, or are you still planning like to go back with these games and port them for other platforms as well?
I would love to port it to other consoles.
Okay,
We actually when we very at the very beginning we did consider a mobile port, but the engine we were working with wasn't really well designed for a mobile port. It was
okay,
possible, but it wouldn't have run very well.
okay.
So finally, about a year into development, we just decided we're just going to stick with PC for now. And because I'm a bit of like a loose cannon, I'm not the most amicable with publishers. I'm open to the idea, but you need a publisher in order to get a console
True.
port, realistically speaking. And I'm just a little bit of a weirdo, so
No,
it's a little
it
difficult for
doesn't
me
mean that. In
to.
my opinion, I feel like a lot of people who start their own projects are afraid, we could say, or not into like getting contact with another publisher to release their game for consoles, since they are afraid that they will lose their money or creative process, creative mind. I guess, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. There is a lot of
So it's
fear
totally
that goes into that.
understandable in my opinion. Like you were afraid.
Yeah, it is. But it's a good point that you got to look into the perspective sometimes and examine that fear and decide whether or not it's rational, or even if it is rational, if you should push past it anyway. That's something I'm still working on myself. There's some other problems with it too. Like the first two games, I consider them two halves of a greater whole. And so if I were to release it on consoles, personally, I'd like to combine them into one single project. So it'd be a little more work than a typical porting process.
Okay.
But I'm very open to the idea. I would love to get the game on
3-in-1
consoles.
collection, right?
Uh, yeah, yeah. We recently got a Steam Deck approved, or verified, whatever it is,
Okay.
and everyone's saying like it's a great experience on Steam Deck, and that has me thinking like, man, I really need to get this on Switch. You know, like
True.
if it's good on Steam Deck, it's probably even better on Switch.
True. I would also like to play those games on PlayStation and your very new game that you are working on. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I cannot
Silver
wait for
Days in
that.
particular. Yeah, I've learned a lot of lessons from the first couple games. So this time I am planning on trying very hard to get a console port. Um, I'm probably definitely going to do Xbox because allegedly Xbox is just very easy to port
Okay.
onto. But I would love to go for a PlayStation, Switch, maybe whatever the Switch predecessor is going to be. I'm very much looking forward to it. So we're going a lot harder on marketing, and we're probably going to do a Kickstarter to try to amass funds and see if we can get a port.
Okay.
Worst case scenario, I'll swallow my pride and start hitting up some publishers. We'll see. We'll see.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Okay, and we were talking about like the story, but what about the gameplay? So when you started designing your games, like how did you find the balance between like the story and the gameplay parts or segments of your games?
So I actually don't think you need to find a balance
Okay.
because the gameplay is the story.
Okay.
That's like as you play through the game, it informs the narrative. So really, what you have to do is once you have your mechanics set up, you got to establish like what they mean to the story. They should be. I'm sure you're familiar with the term ludonarrative dissonance, which is when the gameplay and the story are in conflict and
Yes. Yes.
they're not
Yes.
matching up. Um, if you can avoid that with your base mechanics, you can change basically anything else
True. True.
to service the story. So all of my characters, their abilities are informed by who they are. Their stats are informed by that. You've got like in Axial, you've got Psy. He's a coward, so he gives up easily. He has low HP. He's always hesitating, so he's low speed.
Okay.
But he's very smart, so he has high intelligence. It's it's very easy if you just think of everything through the terms of the video game, as a ludic
Nice,
experience as
nice.
well as a narrative experience.
Nice to hear that. So you were so passionate about these projects of yours that you were thinking of everything, right? We could say.
Yes.
Nice, but that's a
Yeah,
very nice touch
everything
to your
is.
games. Okay.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think even if people don't recognize that like directly,
Okay.
I think they do internalize it as they play. They might not recognize, oh, like this is why this character has these stats and these abilities. But I think if it really adds up into a greater whole, they'll feel it.
Okay. So, and when you were choosing the genre of your games, why did you choose JRPGs? So, because I love JRPGs, my favorite all-time favorite game is Final Fantasy X. So, I fell in love with
Oh,
your
I
games.
love
So,
Final Fantasy X.
yeah. So
Yes,
I was like seeing your games and come on, like JRPG.
it's it's a genre I've just always loved.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a very story and character driven
Okay.
genre. I think the part about JRPG specifically that speaks to me more than the other genres is that instead of controlling a single character at a time, you control the entire party. Because in combat, you're picking everyone's abilities at once, and
True.
then you do your whole turn. I love characters. Characters are everything to me. So being able to control multiple characters and understand like their role in the story and gameplay and synergize them all together and you're controlling them as a little team, it's the best thing to me. It means so much to me.
Okay. Nice. And so, as for going to the characters deeper, for your stories, were there characters that has been influenced by you or by your friends or family members? That, like, if you are
Oh
playing your
yeah.
game, that you can say that okay, it's this and that person from my life.
I try not to inject people directly into my game,
Okay.
because I feel it's maybe a little disrespectful.
But why?
Of course,
But why?
well, like if my own opinions on people are not who they are as a whole.
Okay.
Everyone is a very everyone's a complicated machine,
True. True.
and
True.
I can only know someone from my own perspective.
True.
So I feel if I were to try to carry someone over into my game directly, I wouldn't be giving them the whole picture. I
Okay.
might be
Okay.
able
Okay.
to present them in a positive light,
True.
but it might not be an accurate light. However, the people I meet in my life definitely influence my characters and story. I just try to combine things in a way that is it's a freshly unique experience
Okay.
where instead of trying to take someone I know and put them in my game, I try to take what I know and put that in my game. So with Silver Days, for example, I already mentioned that ex girlfriend from 6 or 7 years ago. I did not put her in my game, but I put my feelings about her into that game, into the form of a different character,
Okay.
and I created that character as her own person with agency because I don't know my ex girlfriend. I don't know everything about her life, but I do know everything about this character's life, and I can decide this is how I feel about this character based on how I feel about this person, and I can try to create something whole and original out of that without necessarily having to appropriate someone else and
True. True.
misconstrue who they really are.
Do you think if your ex-girlfriend would play your newest game, that then she would understand the connection between you and her in the game?
I think she might. I'm actually still on speaking terms with her. Fortunately, we're still good friends, and
Does she know about
maybe I'd
it?
be a
Does
little.
she know about it? That
Um,
you have
she
these
she knows about the
stories?
game. I
Okay.
don't think I ever told her like you were a part of the inspiration for this
She
game. Maybe
might
I
not
should.
know now, right?
Uh,
Because of our interview.
yeah, like
Sorry for that.
yeah.
Spoiler time for
No,
her.
no, it's fine. It's not something I'm
I'm
especially
just
embarrassed
joking. I'm
of,
just
especially
joking.
because as I mentioned, like that's only a fragment of it.
Okay.
I was also informed by this recent relationship of mine. I've been informed by other people's relationships, their experiences, um, things outside of my relationships as well. Of course, the game isn't just about girlfriends; it's about growing up in general. It's about
True.
the,
True. True. True.
you
True.
know,
True. True.
it's a coming of age RPG,
True.
as I keep calling it, because the transition from childhood to adulthood, it's a turbulent time for a lot of people. It's you've got your relationships. I don't know if this is how it works everywhere in the world, but in America especially, you're kind of expected to just like cut off all of your relationships. You know, like you go to college out of state, you have to say goodbye to your friends and your family. It's like
Yeah,
man,
but
like
I
how is that
think
not
like
traumatic?
yeah, but I think like it's not intentional. It's just how our life is, but it doesn't mean that it's good. Like, and I feel like we
Yeah,
are too strict about our life of being us to realize that we need to grow up, which is not the perfect thing to do. Like, in my opinion, all of us who play games and also who are developing these games, like you as well, we are all like still like a bit of kids, and it's there is nothing wrong with that in my opinion. Like, it's good to
no,
be
there
a kid,
isn't.
and it's good to be like, I always say this, that those who keep their childhood in themselves, they will be able to like be more creative like they were in their childhood times, and also like being honest, and also being able to love with real passion, not just for example other people, but like as for like you love your games and making games, and it's because like you're still a kid, and it's a good thing. Like, even if people
Yeah,
might judge you because of that, but it's, in my opinion, it's still a good thing. Like, you can be creative, you can love your things that you are making with passion, and also others with passion. And I think that a lot of people are forgetting this thing, and also like that's why they are losing touch with others, like you said. So
absolutely. There's something. It's just a bit of a joke that I always like to tell people. You may call me a man child, but I call myself happy. You
true,
know,
true,
because
true, true. And it's true. Like, it's not only a joke. It's the truth, right? Yeah,
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 you gotta just enjoy what you love.
true.
Um, the thing I lament the most is how adulthood kind of expects you to stop playing.
Yeah, and
We
also
still play
people.
games,
Yeah, and also people became
but
empty. Sorry for interrupting you. Like, they become empty since like they lose any of their passion. Like, people used to play
yeah,
the instruments, people used to play sports or do sports. People used to be passionate about everything when they were kids, and they just grow up, go out there, we have to make money, we have to get a job, get a girlfriend, like you said, or a boyfriend, get a house, car, driving license, and everything. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
but where is my passion? Like, where are my dreams? And of course, yeah, that's how we live.
yeah. It breaks my heart that that you're just expected to let those things go. I think,
True,
of course, responsibility is important. You do need to get a
true,
job and
true.
learn to drive, and
Yeah, but
if
people would
that's
have
what
to
interests you.
balance those things, right? So
Yeah, yeah. I think you can make it work. I think there are societal issues as well that make it harder for people to connect with their inner passions
true,
that I think society needs to work on as a whole. But there's some personal responsibility there too. You have to allow yourself. You have to make the effort to allow those parts into your life and keep them cultivated.
true, true. And also, like, if we are going back to the topic that you told us about friends not having or not being friends anymore through high school or through even the childhood days, I feel like people are not doing enough efforts to like keep their friends together or keep their friends close. And it's
Yeah,
very bad to see, because if there are two people and they were friends and they became like less together, they should like start to bring up the connection again, or start to write to each other, or go to each other's house, but they
hmm
won't. And it's like weird to see that none of them will do that. Like, they will blame the others, so it's you who are not searching for me or writing to me anymore. And it's like both sides are like, yeah,
yeah. You got to reach out.
yeah, true, true,
I'm
true.
very lucky actually. My best friend from high school is my roommate now, so
Okay,
he's actually in the other room right now. I
nice.
still talk to him,
Say hi to
and
him. Yeah, nice.
yeah, and I'll be visiting another friend from high school today after this interview as well. So I still have a very close connection with my friends,
Nice,
but
nice to hear that.
I was lamenting the fact like this is very unusual. Most people
True,
don't
true,
talk to their friends from childhood,
true,
and
true.
like it's really
Or
sad. Like
even
these
if
people are the most important people to me.
true, true, I totally agree with you on that. And even if they do, like, they are not willing to, have a good time with them like they used to when they were
Yeah,
kids. Like, and they always blame the fact that they have jobs, they do not have enough time, or they live in a different, like, city or country. Like I do that too because most of my friends live in different country and it's very hard, to
Yeah, they
meet
are
up with
valid
them.
excuses,
Yeah, true, true, true. It's always like
but
there
at the
is
same
one
time,
person who is willing to do everything to meet them. For example,
mhm.
as for my example, it's me, and they are not. So it's very sad to feel that way, when you're typing, okay, let's meet up.
Yeah,
I will go with the train to every country to meet you, but they are like, no, no, I don't have the time. I'm working, and it sucks. Like, come on, we were like best
yeah,
friends
that's tragic.
forever. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
But that's just life, I guess.
it is. Yeah, it's important that people work together to keep their
True.
relationship strong. And
Okay.
I understand, like, sometimes things just drift apart. It happens. It is still sad, but that is life.
Yeah, true. Okay, going back for the games.
Yeah.
So in Silver Days, so you mentioned like you grew up on JRPGs and it's your number one genre to go. And so in JRPG games, usually there are a lot of like real life issues mentioned with strict messages given to the players to listen to and to develop their personality to help the world get better. So what examples could you mention from your last game that you're working on to have these
Yeah.
issues
So
that
I
we have
already
in real
mentioned
life?
the element of growing up,
Okay.
and it is trying to put a lens on the societal aspect of it.
Okay.
There's also the personal aspect. The main character, Pin of Silver Days, he's so reluctant to grow up and face the responsibilities of his adult life that it's his primary character flaw. The world gets frozen like this, everything's in stasis, and he's like, "Well, I guess this means I don't have to worry about that stuff." Which good for him, but it really means that he's going to be stagnant. He's not going to grow as a person. Um, so that's really the main theme of the game is
Okay.
accepting like bad things have to happen. Things have to end in order for us to continue growing as people. We have to accept that life changes, and that's not always a good thing. But in the end, it's important for us in order to cultivate growth and a continued good lifestyle that we accept that some things just end.
Okay, so from going that a little bit further, like they think like the element of the freeze could be a symbol like for stopping this like ever going on change in our world.
Yeah. In a way, there's this writing idea of like, in order for a character to get what they need,
Okay.
they first have to get what they want.
Okay.
And usually that's something along the lines of like, they'll have like a big goal, and then once they reach that goal, they realize like their character growth or whatever. I decided to take that one step further and make getting what you want the inciting incident of the story.
Okay. So you change
Pin
the pace,
technically
right?
gets yeah, yeah. Like Pin technically gets what he wants right when the story starts. Everything's frozen. He doesn't have to worry about graduation or his girlfriend breaking up with him or any of that stuff. So now that he's gotten what he wants, it's time for him to get what he needs and accept like he does have to grow up, and it's time for him to move on and accept these things.
And it will be even harder, right, for him to grow up in a world like that.
Yeah, the ending is it's making me very sad thinking about it, but
Okay.
it's one of those important lessons that the characters are going to have to go through. It's the lesson I went through. You probably went through it too.
Yeah,
We
we
all
all
just have
did.
to accept these
Yeah,
things.
true, true, true.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you froze your own word for some days?
No, no, that's I'd be tempted to for sure. I'm happy with my life right now. Or
Okay.
there are definitely times in life that I was also really happy, and I just wish everything could stay the same. And of course, that desire of mine, even if I logically know it's flawed, of course it's going to inform the game. Pin's desire for everything to stay frozen like this is born from my own desire for everything to stay frozen. But
Okay.
I understand, like, from a logical and emotional perspective, that this is it's what we need as humans to grow. So no, I personally would not go forward with it. I'd maybe be tempted to, but I think I'd be able to come around to it.
Okay. And so as for going to music, so were you making
Oh
the
yes,
music for your own too?
I sure am.
Oh, nice. Okay, do
Okay,
you play
so with
instruments as well?
um, so I play a little bit of harmonica, and
Okay.
I've got my piano right here as well.
Nice. Okay, I see
But
that.
I'm actually not very good at all. But one of the things
You
I
can
love about
always
making
develop,
video game
right,
music,
yourself or your skills.
yeah, 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 it's something I really need to cultivate. Part of the problem is just that I'm so one track minded on my video game that it's difficult for me sometimes to pick up other skills that aren't related. But yeah, so for the first two Axial games, I did a lot of the music, probably about 20% of it, but I also had four other composers.
Oh, okay.
And all of us together, we wrote probably about 4 hours worth of music. It was a very long soundtrack in the end.
Nice.
Um, but now that we've finished that project, most of them have moved on with their lives. So I'm making 90% of the music for this game.
Oh, okay.
I have one other composer, and he's written a couple songs. I'd say we've got about 40 tracks in the game as we speak right now. I still have more to write, and he's written about three of them. So I've been very busy, and to be honest, with Axial, I was probably the weakest composer on the team in my opinion. I think I'm still good, but I don't think I was as good as the others. So this has been a great opportunity for me to really force myself to grow and meet the standard that my companions that are no longer with me, well, like not dead, but they've moved on with their lives. So yeah, my companions that are gone now, I have to meet that standard that they raised for me. So
They
I
have been
learned
caught up
I
by the
originally,
void, right? Or by the
yeah,
frozen.
yeah, precisely.
They got frozen.
Yeah, now the world has taken them on their journeys, and I wish them very well. One of them is the reason why he's not working on the game is because he's got his own game that he's making,
Okay.
and I couldn't be prouder of him. So it's all happy reasons why they're too busy to work with me now. So it's important for me to take responsibility and make sure that the music that I make is just as good as it would have been if they were working on it with me. So I originally was working only in chiptune because chiptune's kind of easy, like Game Boy music. So the entirety of Axial was working in those restrictions. Now that I've moved on to Silver Days, I decided I'm going to try to arrange my music with
Okay.
instruments and such. So that was a real challenge. I think I've met that challenge more or less. I'll be probably posting a couple songs later down the line before the game
Nice. You're
comes out,
looking
just so
for
people can.
that. Nice. Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
And what kind of
yeah,
styles
I guess you.
you wanted to use in your musics? What kind of
Um,
styles were
so
important
I
for
was
you?
originally thinking, I was thinking of a lo-fi hip hop kind of style.
Okay.
Like those famous beats to study to or whatever that you
You
find on
wanted
YouTube.
to just
Uh,
use beats as making these
yeah.
musics, or you wanted vocals as well
Um, I did
or
briefly
verses?
consider vocals,
Okay.
but so for a little bit, I was considering like maybe I should learn to sing or something. But like I mentioned before, it's very hard for me to learn new skills when I'm so
Okay.
uh, focused on development. I also considered synthesized vocals like Vocaloid or other V-synth sort of things. It was the same problem. It's a huge learning curve, and I have a ton of respect for people that have the willingness to figure that stuff out. But for me, it wasn't really on the cards in a realistic fashion for me. So I have been trying to branch out and figure out things that I don't know how to do yet. But I got to pace myself a little. You got to stay within the bounds of realism. So for the most part, it's all arranged music. There's not really any vocals or anything.
Okay.
We do, however, I see why you're getting at this now because the trailer has vocals, as you may have noticed.
Yes.
I'm working with a band called Glacier Face. They're a Denver-based indie band that I used to work at a fast food restaurant. So I met them in 2020, I believe.
Okay.
All three of the band members were working at this restaurant with me, and I loved their music so much that I really wanted to feature it in my video games. And at the time, I was balls deep in Axial, so there was no way I was going to make that work. But when Silver Days came around, I was listening to their music, and I was like, this sounds like music that these characters would listen to. So I reached out and asked them if I could acquire the rights to feature some of their music in my games. So that will have vocals. There's only a couple tracks. There's 3 or 4 tracks of theirs that will be featured in the game. So yes, there are a couple vocal tracks, but those ones are not composed by me. I'm not quite there yet.
Were they so you say were they sharing the passion of your game too?
I think they are. They I no longer work with them, so
Oh,
I don't
okay.
see them literally every day.
Okay.
But I am in communication with them. They're really excited about this project.
Nice.
It made me really happy being able to show them the trailer and seeing their eyes light up from like this is their music put against this awesome gameplay and this story. Um, so I do think they've got like this really strong passion for music that resonates with me with my passion for game design. Um, and yeah, like I think really artists that have that sort of passion, they naturally magnetize to each other.
True.
They
True.
you find each other, you know, and
True.
that is how you gel with people.
Okay. Okay. So, and how do you feel about the fact that after you will release your first game, it will be like the the chapters of your life? Because I feel like
Yeah,
these games are like chapters of your life, like all the
they really
things that
are.
you were talking about. I really feel like it's becoming a fact to understand that these stories is the chapters of your life that you have written. And so how will you be feeling after like looking back at these like stories like you have written? Are they like
Yeah,
also memories that it's good to watch back and play back,
they are. They are. I like to look back on the eras of my life
Okay.
with disc one and disc two
Okay.
because you're right. There's like such a strong line. Like this is that
True,
moment.
true, true, true.
Um, yeah, like about a month before I released my first game, I bought a home. So like literally, I moved. Like the location changed.
Yeah, because
I had
everything you
a new
said comes
job.
to that it's really about your life,
Yeah,
and all the people in
yeah,
it, and it's like a whole universe coming together in you, like with these games.
yeah. That's
True,
exactly it,
true, 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 true.
and that's exactly how it feels. So I don't know where I'm gonna be after Silver Days
Okay.
because my life hasn't happened yet. You know,
True, true, true.
I'm only about
The
I'm
inspiration
only a year
still
into
has
this
to come,
project,
right?
so yeah. So who knows where we'll be?
Okay.
But I can definitely say, based on my experience with the last two games, things will be different at the end of this. And you know that's the theme of the game too. Like everything's gonna change, and I'll have to approach that emotionally. I can't wait. I can't wait to see where my life goes after this. I do have plans for my next game after Silver Days because, of course, I can't help myself. But yeah, I don't know where I'll be. But I think it'll be a really good story either way.
Nice. Okay. And so, as for the monsters, designing the monsters, who was your favorite monster to design?
Oh, right now I believe I would say it is the goldfish enemy.
Okay.
It's a little orb that's shaped like a fish. Because I used to have a fish.
See,
He
I'm
died like
telling you,
2 years ago. Yeah, precisely. Yeah, it all comes from your life.
everything.
Yeah, and I love
But
this
that's
fish
nice. I
so
love
much.
it. I love it, man. Nice.
Yeah, he had a long life. He lived about 2 years, which is a
Okay.
long time for a fish. So yeah, I really wanted to put him in my game, and now that he's no longer with me, and this time he is dead, um, you know, I have him immortalized. He exists in this video game now. So I made a little fishy enemy, and every time I encounter that enemy in the game, I can be like, ah, you know, it's my little buddy Ekno. That was his name. So yeah, that's probably my favorite enemy to design. It's not just because of the personal connection to it, but also it was a fun design experiment to create like this little orb with these floating fins and stuff, and make it look like a fish while also being not just a fish, like something original and interesting to look at. Um, there's a couple enemies like that where
Okay.
you take like just a basic concept and you have to figure out a way to make it more than just like a concept you could
True.
describe.
True. True.
I feel if you could just say it in words, like what the creature is, and that's all there is to it, it's not quite creative enough. You got to
True.
go a step
There is
further
no lore
and make it
in
something.
that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, precisely.
Okay. Was it hard to battle against or have battles against your fish?
Nah, not really. I mean,
I mean,
I designed it to be a
emotionally
fun.
hard, right?
Yeah, like I've come to terms with the death of my fish. You know,
Okay.
it is I was emotionally prepared for him to go. You know, you can kind of
Okay.
tell when the
Okay.
animal is kind of on their last legs. So really, whenever I see the fish, it's mostly just a reminder of something that I used to
And
love. And
what
so
was the?
fighting it,
Okay. So no, sorry. Go for that.
oh yeah. Fighting it, it's more of like a happy reminder. You know,
I
like
see. Okay.
this creature, I decide to it's immortal now. You know, as long as this game exists, Ekno lives on.
Okay. And so, what was the idea behind making him an enemy and not like a companion or a main character?
Oh well, you know, it's a small thing. You know, it's just a fish. It'd be kind of weird if I turned him into a party member or a summon or something. So I figured the game already has all these strange and unique creatures. And my fish was a strange and unique creature. So it works out well to just, kind of throw a fish in as an enemy. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well make it inspired by my own fish.
Okay. And are there like key informations about that it is your fish in the game or Easter eggs?
Um, it mostly just in the name of the fish. When you encounter it, its name is Ekno, so it is named after the
Oh, I
fish that I
see.
had.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah. There's nothing else really to it. I didn't put a ton of thought into this. It's just a little Easter egg. But I currently have a snail now actually. So perhaps when his time comes, I've had him for about a year now. I'll probably make a snail enemy as well, and we'll see where that goes.
It's very nice of you, by the way, to hear that. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's important to me. I love the little things in my life, and unlike the people in my life who are such complex beings, my snail is just a snail, so I can put that in my game no problem.
And can you feel yourself as a main hero and the connection between all the people, your friends, your family members, not just in the game but in your real life too? Like you are
Oh,
I
absolutely.
would say like of course it will be very egoistic to say, but like the center of your own universe who connects
Yeah, no,
everyone.
it is a little egotistical, but I don't think that means it's wrong or that it's even a bad thing to feel because you can only live your own life.
True,
You are the center of your own universe,
true,
and
true.
I think instead of judging others for feeling that way, we should just accept that we all feel that way.
True.
And
But
as long
it's
as
a
you're
good thing,
empathetic,
right? Especially if you
yeah,
are
it is.
trying to pull those strings together and have everyone together as a
Yeah,
community, right? Or family,
yeah. I
second
think
family.
a little grandeur goes a long way. You know, and if you can acknowledge other people feel that same way, it helps you to also create more in-depth characters because you understand
True,
not just your main character is the main character of their story, but every other character
true,
is the main character of their story as well.
true.
Everyone, like, no one is just a flat character, even if you're not exploring that depth in your story. That depth exists either way.
Especially if somebody's as good writer as you and puts so much heart and effort into writing these characters, like you said, and I totally appreciate that. Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Okay, and
absolutely.
so who was your very favorite character in the game?
In Silver Days, my favorite character would be Jeff.
Okay,
In the artwork that you've seen, he's the character with the sweater vest and the glasses. Um, he's he's the smart one of the group, and I've always had a penchant for the smart characters. But I'm really proud of myself with Silver Days in particular because I really love every character.
okay.
There's Wink, the little light bulb witch. She is such a fun character to explore because she's the only non-human of the party, and you guys will understand what her purpose is once you play the game. But there's you got Geo, who's he's the lazy, he's a truant, which means like he skips school and he smokes and he's rebellious and stuff. So he's so much fun to write. He seems to be the fan favorite out of the testers that have played. And of course, there's Pin, who is the main character. So most of the emotional depth goes into him. So I'm sorry, you said one character, and I just basically listed the entire
It's
character
okay.
list.
It's okay.
But
It's okay.
I, I love every character.
Nice.
But Jeff is definitely my personal favorite. Whenever I make a video game, an RPG party to be precise, I always like to make at least one character that's just designed as the Sawyer character, the character that's meant to like have my sensibilities. If I were playing this video game and someone else made it, it'd always be my favorite character. So Jeff is that character this time. In Axial, it was Chip, which a lot of people say Chip looks just like me. I'm sure that was probably a subconscious thing, like, oh yeah, I should make my favorite character look like me. But yeah, it's definitely Jeff this time around.
Okay. And that's we were talking about like the genre of JRPG. So old JRPG games were hard. Like so when designing your games and especially Silver Days, did you want to like design your own game as hard as old JRPG games?
So yes and no.
Okay.
A lot of the difficulty you find in older JRPGs, especially like the NES ones, like Final Fantasy One, it's a lot of tedium. You know, you've got encounters that take a very long time. They can be kind of brutal. You're expected to grind. Um, I don't find that sort of difficulty especially compelling, but I do find strategic difficulty in the mechanical systems to be very compelling. So I have a bad habit of making my game a little too hard. In Axial, I created a difficulty just for myself, just so I could have a game that was adequately challenging to me as a developer. And for Silver Days, what I decided to do instead, uh, I realized like it's best to create a game that's too easy as opposed to too hard. Because if it's too easy, at least everyone can see it through to the end. Where if it's too hard, people will quit. So I've carried that philosophy into Silver Days. The game is too easy by my standards, but I added an additional element, which is that every battle is ranked, and so the less damage you take, or in other words, the better you have a mastery of the systems, that you're rewarded with better cards and better rewards.
I see.
So that created an interesting balance where like anyone can beat the game, but if you're truly invested in the systems and you want to take a strategic depth into it, you're rewarded for that. That pays off in a way that doesn't ruin the experience for other players.
Okay. Okay. I see. And so when you have chose like to use these card elements as gameplay elements for your story and for your gameplay segment of the game, so what was the idea behind that decision?
I've always loved deep systems,
Okay.
systems with a lot of working parts that mesh together, and you can explore them. So card games, especially like trading card games, they're kind of intrinsically designed around that. So every game I make, I can't help it. There's a bunch of stuff that works together. I like to create equipment systems, or you can equip battle skills and things like that. So we injected cards into this just because it seemed like a very natural fit to have all these different abilities. They can each be a different trading card.
Okay.
And with the themes of growing up as well, because of course gameplay ties into the story, like I've been saying. Um, card games are generally seen as like a childish thing for people to be into. I still think it's awesome. I love card
True.
games,
True.
but for Pin to still be playing these games and seeing everything through the lens of these card games, it's sort of a way of conveying like he's still got a bit of growing to do. He's still a little immature.
Okay.
So as much as I respect card games, and again, like I play trading card games all the time, I think showing everything through the lens of what is effectively a children's toy helps convey the themes of growing up a little bit as well.
Okay. I see. And have you designed these cards to be able to use them in real life too if you would happen to release like IRL cards?
That that would be really cool. I like to make all of my enemies and players balanced together in such a way that if there was like a
Okay.
player versus player environment,
Okay.
it would work. So I haven't actually thought that hard about this for Silver Days, but the systems are in place in such a way that theoretically it could work. There's very little RNG in the game, random number generators, which means that there's not much of a luck element, which really helps because in a card game, um, like you can't like make a random number generator in real life that feels practical to use. This is why D&D uses dice instead of like a rolling a one out of a
Yeah.
thousand chance or whatever. So I think it could work.
Okay.
I've never like seriously put any thought into like a prototype or anything like
Collector's
that, but
edition with all the cards to collect, right? And
yeah, yeah.
statues
Like I,
of
I
your
definitely think
favorite characters, all of them. Oh.
of course, man, that now that you bring this up, it
Yeah,
sounds really
Ultimate
fun. I might
Collector's
I might tinker
Edition.
with that on my
Yeah,
downtime.
I'm down to buy that. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you started like making Silver Days, like what was your goal with the style of the game, like, and the graphics?
Ooh. So, pixel art is something that I cultivated while I was making Axial. Actually, it's funny. Originally, Axial wasn't going to be a pixel art
Oh,
game,
really?
but Yeah, originally it was going to be hand drawn, but
Oh,
as I developed it, um, my own art skills were not there. I wasn't ready for it,
okay,
and I had an artist who he's the friend I'm actually going to be visiting after
okay,
this. But ends up the scope was just too big. He couldn't make all of the assets for me in a manner that was timely, and I definitely couldn't pay him for all that. So eventually, I was like, okay, I got to figure out a way that I can make assets that look professional that are within my abilities. So I started studying pixel art because I obviously, as a pixel artist, I have a ton of respect for the craft. It is hard work, but it's easier to get into than traditional artwork. So when Silver Days came around, I had spent the last 4 or 5 years working in this pixel art style,
okay,
but I had to stay in the constraints of what I was able to do in 2019 because that's when I started like the templates for everything. You know, that's when the art style established itself. So now that Silver Days has happened, I'm a lot better at pixel art. So my goal was to really push myself and improve in all aspects of this thing that I'm already pretty okay at. So it's still pixel art, but it's a much higher quality of pixel
okay,
art than I think Axial had. So I try to have better animations. I'm especially proud of the portrait sprites. They're inspired by Mega Man Battle Network on
nice.
the Game Boy Advance. But yeah, I think I've really gone the extra step graphically speaking, even if it is still um, pixel art and kind of a lower resolution.
Okay, I see. And so when you were like making pixel art and developing your skills, like what was the hardest part about it to, to learn pixel
Hmm.
art?
It's well, okay. So one of the things I liked about pixel art was that you can kind of like mathematically create like an objective
Okay,
best solution to every problem.
okay,
When you're drawing like in huge strokes, there's so many variables that you can't really like get into the nitty gritty of it and adjust the fine details. Whereas you can do that with pixel art. The issue is the bigger you get with pixel art, the closer it gets to real art. And so, especially with huge screen wide images or CGs as we call them, uh, that's basically just becoming a real artist at that point. I say real in quotations because pixel art is real art.
true.
But traditional arts, the bigger of resolution you get with your pixel art, the closer it is to traditional art. So once I started having to make things like that, I had to really confront like I wasn't ready for this when I started this journey, and now I have no choice. I have to. So it was difficult, but I think I've got it kind of figured out.
Was it like also a drive to you to develop as a person who are trying to learn this skill?
Yeah. It's kind of in the back of my head. It's not really a forefront thing for me to grow
Okay,
as a person when I hone my art,
okay,
but nevertheless, it happens. And as it does, I really embrace that. I think honing a craft is one of the best things you can do. I guess spiritually. I don't know if spiritually is quite the right word, but like there's an ethos to it that really strengthens you as a person. It teaches you dedication. It teaches you persistence. And I think all those things are something that everyone needs. I think if you don't have those skills honed and cultivated, it makes life a lot worse, in my
true,
opinion.
true.
And it's something you're always doing. You're always going to be becoming more dedicated and more persistent, and you always have to keep that blade sharp. So I really appreciate being able to have this opportunity through pixel art to continue growing and not allowing myself to grow complacent.
Nice. Okay. So do you see yourself as a person who can pick up the knowledge, we would say, much easier than others and be able to grow?
I don't know if I have it easier than others, but I think I'm more dedicated than
Okay.
others in a lot of
And do
ways.
you
I
think it
think
helps? So
uh,
the drive and the passion?
absolutely. I
Okay.
think that's the main thing that I think has gotten me this far is
Okay.
the fact that I just don't give up. I tell people I have a very high HP stat. It's hard to get me to knock down, and sometimes I do get knocked down. When I first began
But
Silver
you
Days, I
revive
wanted to have
yourself, right?
yeah, I wanted to have slightly larger overworld sprites, and I wasn't quite ready for it still.
You always have a med
We all
kit
have our
with
limits.
yourself. That
Yeah. So I
basically,
had to confront that.
yeah.
We all have to grow, and I'll get there eventually, but I wasn't quite as ready as I thought I was. So I had to
I
hone a
hope that
different
you
art
will
style
never
instead.
grow like into the
Yeah,
adults. Like
yeah. We'll
for
we'll never
100%.
hit a point,
Yeah,
yeah, where we're just okay with everything.
yeah,
If you just have to have a little bit of unhappiness, just enough that you want to keep
true,
growing and getting better.
true, true,
I
true.
think it's really important.
Okay. So going back to your childhood and the passion that has started from your very young age. So were your family and close friends supportive about your decision as you wanted to be a
I would say they
developer?
were.
Okay. Did they
Yeah.
understand that you want to make games and you play games?
Absolutely. Okay,
Okay.
so there's been a little resentment with my family at times.
Okay.
When I was a kid with that Game Boy Advance, I took it a little too far sometimes. I played into the dead hours of the night. They take it away and ground me, and then I'd find a way to sneak it back. And before you know it, I'm grounded for like a whole 2 years or something like that. Um, I don't know if at the time they understood that this was really my passion. This is
Okay.
what meant the world to me. And I did resent them a little for taking away the games I love so much. But of course, like as an adult, we've had our heart to hearts. We understand each other better, and even if we don't always see eye to eye, I think they definitely understand. Like this is my life. This is what's important to me, and I actually really want to thank my family for that because um, I don't make a whole lot of money off of making games. Not at all, really. Like I work at a Jersey Mike's sandwich shop. But even if this isn't a monetary thing that makes me a lot of money, everyone understands like this is important to me anyway. Like this is what I live for, and I really appreciate that because if I didn't have that kind of support, I mean, I'd still go for it anyway because this is everything to me. But it feels a lot better knowing that everyone's got my back. When I released the trailer about a month ago, I was able to send it to all of my family members, and they all wish listed it. Even though I know they're probably not going to play it, they don't really play video games, but nevertheless, they got my back.
Sure.
And I love that having a supportive family and friends is the best thing in the
True,
world.
true, true. And I appreciate that you are not the one who just goes strictly for the money, but you are more passionate about releasing your game and your story out there. So it's also, I feel like we were discussing a lot of topics, and I feel like it's also not just the fact that you love making these games and you want to release them so people can play it, but it's also relief too, right? Am I correct about it? Like a relief in a way,
Absolutely.
like you want these stories to go out, and even if you will grow, and then you will be able to see your childhood back and your memories, right, as an author as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. It's I don't really have to worry too much about reclaiming my childhood. As I said before, I'm a bit of a man child already, so
Okay.
it's not something I feel I've ever lost. But
Yeah, but the memories you
nevertheless, like,
you you miss, right? So, and the
yeah,
people you miss, and
yeah,
it's like these stories are
I have a
important to
lot of
you.
nostalgia.
Yeah, it's like a box, you bring yourself with, like with these games, and you can always travel with the
Yeah,
companions who you lost on the way in your real life, right?
yeah, that's exactly how it is,
Okay.
and especially with Silver Days, because like I mentioned, the idea came to me with the concept of going on a little adventure with all of your friends. But I'm sure all of us who played JRPGs as kids, we always imagined like all of our friends as our little
True,
RPG
true,
party,
true,
and
true.
yeah, yeah, and
Making
I
these
still do
paper
that with
swords, and shields and everything, like
yeah,
mage staff.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so once this game is done, and even now that's not done, like it exists on my hard drive, I can, I've got that experience now forever. It's always a part of me, and
Okay.
yeah, that's great. I see exactly what you mean there.
Do you think like people would be able to like understand themselves way better if they would write stories about their life, journals or novels, or even they
Yeah,
might be
I think
making
so.
games? Okay.
It's hard for me to even imagine how people can introspect and really look inward without doing that. I'm sure people can. I don't doubt that at all. But it's difficult for me to even like imagine that headspace because it's such an integral part of my own life. It's how I examine everything through the lens of art that I'm able to see my flaws and my strengths and grow as a person, acknowledge what other people need, what I need even. So I think if you don't have an outlet like that, you should seek one out for sure. I can't tell you what to do with your life, but I think most people really would benefit by bringing art into their
True,
lives and
true, true.
creating stories in some way. It doesn't have to be video games. People write, people make music, people paint. But I think everyone needs something, some kind of art to release themselves through and to look inward through.
Okay. And it's also like we can consider it like as a break, right, from everyday life. Everyday life, and
Yeah.
they are being able to, with their passion, they are willing to and able to, like, like you said, look into themselves and understand themselves way better.
Yeah. To me, it's not quite as much of a break, I would say, because it is everyday life for me.
Yeah, true, true,
It is
true.
it's what
It's
I
a
live
win-win
for.
for you, right?
Um, so yeah, like everyday life for me is getting pulled away from what I live for. But nevertheless, I think everyone needs something like that to go home to and to be the thing they're excited for. And for some people, that's just other people. I don't. I think in a way, society and having social relationships is a form of art. Um, but I think everyone just needs some outlet to tell their stories
True,
through.
true, true, true. Yeah, because like people are too much caught up in the moment, and they are too much caught up in like everyday's life, having a job, making it 100% work, and getting money and all that stuff. And it's nothing wrong with that. It's just they forgot to go back into their past life, and like you said, also reach out to old friends or family members. And it's bad to see that people are not taking responsibility for those moments of their life, right? Or actions, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah. Yeah, and I do understand, but it's something we all have to acknowledge that we're missing sometimes. And
Okay.
once you acknowledge it and you take steps towards it, sometimes you aren't always on the same wavelength as other people,
True.
and you can't always make that connection happen. But as long as you're able to see that that's something you need to do and do your best, that's all.
Yeah,
That's
but
all
I
you can do.
think
That's
all
the
of
best.
us misses those times, right? It's just some of us like
Yeah.
scared to do the first step, I would say.
Hmm. And that's another thing. Since so many people are scared to take the first
True,
step,
true.
if you take this step for them, you'd be surprised how open people are. This is something I was thinking about the other day. I had a friend in fourth grade, right around the time that I was starting to get into the concept of game development,
Okay.
that I haven't spoken to in a very long time. Like I still talk to my high school friends, of course, but this is a guy that he meant a lot to me, and I haven't talked to him in a while. I think I should probably hit him up. This conversation's kind of made me think
Okay,
about that.
okay. I
So
will check
I
on you. I will
appreciate that.
check on
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank
I will
you.
check on you in 1 week,
It is
and if it did not happen, I will tell you. Do that. Okay. That's
all
your
right. Yeah,
that's
you
your
know what?
homework
Hold,
for
hold me
now.
to it.
You see, Dr. Otto is here
Yeah.
to change everyone's
Yeah.
life. Okay, nice.
That's what these conversations are for.
True,
It's
true,
it's
true, true.
important
We are
that we all,
developing each other, and yeah, we are learning
yeah,
from each other. True,
developing each other. I like that. I might take that.
true, 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 true. Okay. Let me know if you put me in your game. Letting you know to hit up your friend, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It will
Of
be a
course, of
skill. It will
course.
be a skill in your game.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So we discussed a lot of topics here. So what is the topic that we haven't discussed and you would like to talk about? Like, what could you
Hmm.
think of like wasn't mentioned by you or by me?
Well, I guess we haven't really talked about the actual game mechanics yet.
Okay.
We
Okay.
touched on the concept of cards
Okay.
and learning the different like card mechanics and stuff. But there is a little more to it than that
Okay.
in the actual gameplay. Uh, but with that said, I'm suddenly at a loss for words for what I want
It's
to say
okay.
about it. So I apologize for that.
No, it's okay.
I guess exploring different mechanics is something that I spend a lot of time doing.
Okay.
I like to really tinker around with systems as a player, but I also like to create these systems to tinker around with as a developer because I know there are a lot of players like that out there for me. Um, but one of the things is that I really had to confront as a developer is that not everyone is like this. A lot of people do just want to press the Fire button and kill enemies in one hit without really thinking about it, or grinding in order to become so overpowered that everything is a trivial challenge
True.
is
True.
is
True.
satisfying for them. So I think as a designer, often we, and by we I kind of mean me, but everyone else too. Uh, we have to acknowledge that the things that we love in games isn't what everyone else always loves in games,
True.
and
True.
that doesn't mean that you have to compromise your own vision You just have to accommodate. You can create something that has these systems. You can explore and create interesting strategies, and you can also add in a little something for the people that just want to hit the fire aga button. You can do both, or all three. There's a concept that my friend Jeff, different from the character Jeff, he explained to me, which is the concept of there's a triangle of types of players. You've got the mind players, the body players, and the heart players. So the mind player is a player that loves working with those strategies that I keep bringing up. The body player is the character that likes to hit the fire auga button. They like to do what is most effective and satisfying in the moment. And the heart player, they like to do what feels best emotionally. So that might be they'll build around what the character would most like as a narrative choice. They'll be like, this character really has a fire motif. I'm going to give them their fire spells, or this character is he's like Sai from Axial is a coward, so I'll give him abilities that let him hide away and stuff. And everyone kind of falls into this triangle a little bit. Not everyone is like one point on the triangle. It's kind of a spectrum. So I think if you can make strategies and skills that accommodate all three play styles, you can really create a game that appeals to a lot of people
Okay.
without really hurting yourself. It was something that I was reluctant to do when I first got started. I was like, this is the type of game that I like, so this is the type of game I'm going to make, and I'm not going to worry about what anyone else wants because this is what I want. And
Your
I
story,
still,
right?
yeah, yeah, precisely. So I still do that. I still make what I want, but I can give other people what they want without hurting what I want. And I think, that probably applies to life itself in a way, not just with game design. You can reach out to other people and give them the things they need without taking anything away from yourself.
Sure. Okay. And that's a very nice touch to your game as also as a person as well, and the player, because like you said, you are not hurting your ideas by making
Yeah.
these choices, and you still can give players the freedom to explore themselves, not just a player, but of course a person who understands the story or the messages that you have with your story and the game. Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
Nice. Are you down to answer some questions from the stream?
Absolutely. I would
Okay,
love to.
let's go then. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, let us know if there is any question, because like
Yep.
we
Ask
discussed
me anything.
a lot of topics here, but yeah, let's see. I will watch back the chat real quick if there were any questions that we have missed or I've missed. Okay, let's me. Ooh, there were actually like a lot of comments. If you see any question, by the way, that I wasn't like seeing, let me know, and you can
Oh yeah,
answer.
yeah. I'll look with you.
There were so many like comments. I'm watching those back.
Yeah.
Thanks for everyone, by the way, for tuning in, and thanks for sharing your ideas and your thoughts about the game and the topics we have discussed.
Everyone's saying I look like Shaggy. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
see
read
it. I
that.
see it.
Yeah. Spaghetti asking, coming in with the original favorite in-game music. Okay, that's a nice one. And also call me
Ooh,
DJ.
favorite.
Call me DJ asked something.
Oh yes, yes. DJ was one of those composers that I mentioned that
Oh, nice. Okay,
they're making their own video game now. Yeah, so I'm
nice.
I'm really proud of them. Um, So favorite in-game music? Are we talking about in Silver Days? I guess I'll go ahead and interpret it that way.
Okay.
Um, I think my favorite song in Silver Days right now. It's called the track is called Agonal.
Okay.
It is the dungeon theme for the Purple Zone. It's a song that I composed kind of recently, about 2 months ago, and I want to experiment with kind of a jazzier piano feel.
Okay.
So it's got a lot of piano chords and it's got a bell sound that I like to experiment with. It was my first time using that instrument in particular, so it's hard to describe, of course. It's describing music, but yeah, I've been trying to experiment with different time signatures lately. I used to only work in like 4/4, which is the default time signature for music, but I'm trying to try out like 5/8 and other similar, obscure time signatures. So that one is one of those tracks where I was playing around a little and trying something different.
Okay. Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So DJ also has, and I know I can just kind of ask you this any day, but like, what game got you hooked on designing battle systems? What exact
Oh,
game?
that is a great question. Oh,
Nice.
I don't know if it was any one specific game,
Okay.
but I think if I had to pick one, it would probably be Pokemon.
Okay.
I'm a huge Pokemon guy, and specifically the main games of Pokemon, like the main playthrough
Okay.
experience,
Okay. Okay.
is not that mechanically deep. But my roommate, who I mentioned is my best friend from high school, he introduced me to the concept of competitive Pokemon. And when I started getting into it, I realized there's so much to play around with. Like there's so many different intricate mechanics that you can work in and you can tinker with them and stuff. It was the most addictive experience I've ever worked with, and I still play Pokemon to this day, of course. So I would say if I had to cite one game that made me feel this way, it was definitely Pokemon. Other games I would cite are Mega Man Battle Network, of
Okay.
course. That was one of the first games I ever owned, so it's been a part of me for a long time. Final Fantasy X. I love that game so much. There's a
Nice.
lot of depth to it.
Nice.
Final Fantasy VI is my personal favorite Final
Okay.
Fantasy, but I will acknowledge that 10 is so much more mechanically rich, and I've learned a lot from that game too.
Nice. Okay. Okay. Let me scroll back. If there were any questions that we missed.
Yeah. And yes, DJ, you can absolutely do a Silver Days song. I just wanted to make sure that you're, focusing on your own project first, because DJ is making their own video game, and
Nice.
I didn't kick them off the team, but I told them I want them to focus on their video game first, and worry about me afterwards. So once they've got their foot in the door and they've gotten themselves figured out, I'm definitely going to be asking them to maybe compose a track or two, be featured on the soundtrack a little bit. But I just didn't want to take away from their work, you know.
You're never losing your companions, right?
Yeah, no, they're always
Nice.
with me.
Nice. Nice. That's very nice.
Yeah,
And
DJ is one of my closest friends for sure.
nice. Nice.
Even if they're not working on the game with me right now, I talk to them every day. I love that guy. Ooh, Sleepy Sigmire asks, "What do you think about cooldowns?" So this is a bit of an inside joke, I guess, because it's something I bring up a lot. The
Okay.
concept of cooldowns. So it's a game mechanic. Basically, you use a skill and you're unable to use that skill again for a certain amount of turns or amount of time. There's been an argument going on in many of my communities for a long time that cooldowns are not good game design, and I strongly disagree with this opinion.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, cooldowns in a basic ecosystem they don't quite work. because they're a little prescriptive. You've got a button that you press once
Okay.
every 3 or 4 turns, and then you can't press it, and then you just press it again once those 3 or 4 turns come by. It's not very mechanically interesting. But there are systems you can inject into the ecosystem that work really well with cooldowns. My personal favorite is what I mentioned earlier, equipping battle skills, or like you've got a certain loadout. Um, and the reason why I think that's interesting is because it's up to you as a player to decide how you want to manage those cooldowns before the battle begins. So you can create like a custom rotation by having 3 or 4 skills that have the same cooldown. So you can use one after the other. And then once that's done, the last one rolls back around. And like, oh, hey, it's basically like having no cooldowns. But if you do that, you're using up all those slots in order to make that happen. So you have to make a sacrifice there. It's an interesting choice, a decision. And for the Herald Game Jam, which the rating for that is going on right now, this is very recent. Just to prove a point that cooldowns are effective, I decided to make a video game that only has cooldowns. There's no other mechanics. So there's no MP, there's no TP. It's just cooldowns. And I think I proved my point with that one by making different skills that have a shared cooldown. So if you're to use this attack, you can't heal on that same turn. You have to wait until the cooldown rolls out and stuff. So yeah, long story short, I like cooldowns. I'm not as obsessed with them as people take me out to be, but I'm an advocate of cooldowns as a game mechanic, and most people aren't. So I've kind of become a bit of a spokesperson for this game mechanic, even if it's just something I only kind of like.
I see. Okay. Do you think like cooldowns can help people rethink their options and their choice?
I do, yes.
Okay.
It is intrinsically a balancing mechanic.
Okay.
It's there to ensure that the strongest attacks aren't used the most often.
Okay.
But I think an example I like to use for people is if you imagine that you have a pistol with one bullet and you're surrounded by 6 dudes, who do you shoot? You've only got one bullet.
True. True.
Um, so if you're going to basically use this one really powerful attack, it's not just I use this attack once every 3 turns. It's what circumstances do I use this attack? Do I kill this enemy right now, or do I save it for when I really need it? There's a lot of choice mechanics that you can inject into this cooldown system that people don't necessarily acknowledge right away.
Okay. So do you feel like it would be more strategic, right? Or it is more strategic to have this?
It can be more strategic.
Can be, yeah.
It takes a good it takes a good designer to make it work.
Okay.
But that's the case for all mechanics,
True.
It takes a good designer to make MP feel right, to make TP feel right.
It's like very similar.
So
you were talking about the characters being story driven and have these with the gameplay connection, right? So you got to be more passionate about your game in order to have these decisions work in the right way.
Yeah, you have to be meticulous. You have to be thoughtful.
True.
And if you are thinking about how every decision affects the greater ecosystem of the skills and the enemies, you can make most things work. I think there are very few game mechanics that are truly bad. In fact, if you put a gun to my head and asked me to come up with a bad game mechanic, I don't think I'd be able to. I think anyone can find a way to make something work if they're really intelligent about it.
Okay, nice.
Let's see.
What is your thought process when designing villains? Okay, interesting question.
Oh, that's a great question. I was actually thinking about this the other day because the main villain of Silver Days is he's very interesting. He's my favorite villain I've ever written so far. But now that I'm looking at it, I think the most important thing you can do for a villain is present them with the theme of your game and have them disagree with it. In a way that's like meaningful. So this is an example I like to use a lot. Avengers Infinity War, it's a film most people have seen. You have Thanos who wants to kill 50% of the population for a good reason. He thinks that overpopulation is preventing growth and it's causing people to die because there's finite resources. And so Thanos isn't correct. The film makes it clear it doesn't agree with Thanos, but the theme of the film is we don't trade lives. Like one life is not worth killing someone else over it in order to ensure someone else is happier. And so, in order to really hammer that theme home, they had to create a villain that that challenges it in a really good way. You know, you can't just say like, "Oh, I'm evil" just because I'm evil. You have to give them a good reason. You have to have them challenge the theme of your story, and then you have to rise up to that challenge and challenge it back and say, this is why you're wrong. You're correct about some things. You have a great point, but at the end of the day, this is what my truth is. So for Axial, for example, the theme of that game is purpose. It's the idea like everyone has to go out and seek out what is important to them in life and
Okay.
what they really live for. Like for me, my purpose is video games, you know, but everyone's got their purpose. So the main villain of Axial is someone who he's interpreted his purpose to be destruction. And he wants to try to destroy everything. So you're like, oh no, that's bad. We gotta stop that. Um, but of course, he presents an interesting challenge to it. You know, like if everyone has their purpose, what happens if someone presents themselves with a bad purpose, something that hurts everyone else? So I think if you can create a villain that challenges your themes and puts it to the task of like you really have to prove like what you're trying to say is meaningful. That's how you can create a villain that really resonates with people.
Okay. Thank you. Nice.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, let us know. Let us know.
Yes, please do. Yes.
Speak up, be brave, and
The track
speak
is
up.
called Agonal. It's not published yet. So
Okay.
it's spelled. Oh, hang on. Let me type it in chat.
Okay.
It's oh, never mind. I'm not logged in. That's okay. It's Agonal. Maybe I'll put it on my YouTube or something today, just so people can look it up. Because I do like that track quite a bit. Um, yeah. Let me see if there's any other questions. And yes, feel free to ask. I'm right here, not going anywhere. Let's see. Honestly, Colo Coco said when Sawyer gets old, he's gonna watch playthroughs of his own games.
Yeah, I saw that.
Honest, I am actually pretty excited to return to some of my old games.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, recently I just bought a Steam Deck myself, just so I can try out Axial on the Steam Deck, since everyone says it's such a good experience. Um, so yeah, I'm very excited to return to some of my old games and see how I feel about them then, because of course I designed them with the intention of being like designed for me, like the type of game that I would like. I make my favorite games. But nevertheless, I'm always changing as a person. My philosophies have changed. So perhaps when I look back at this 3, 4 year old game, it's about to yeah, it's about to turn 3 years old in August. I'm sure I'll feel very differently about it. I'm probably still going to like it, but it'll be a fresh experience for me. I'm very excited for that. Oh yes, there is a track called Silver Days, and that one is that's a track that Glacier Face wrote. So that one is actually published on YouTube right now. It's the trailer theme as well as the main theme of the game as a whole.
Okay.
So I really like that song. That was that song that I was talking about, where I was listening to it a couple of years ago, and I realized like this song is about the game that I'm about to make. I have to hit these guys up. I got to ask them for the rights to it because it was just such a perfect fit. You know, it's a song about summer is ending, and like the dread of when you have to go back to school and you have to, your days off are numbered. So yeah, it was just such a perfect track to make as the main theme of the game.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
Okay. Let us know. Let us know if there is any more
Yes,
questions.
please do.
Let us
Yes.
know. Do you think like these stories of yours, like your games stories, like will be the key to your history if you will have kids?
I guess it probably would be. If I wanted to tell someone the fastest way to get to know me, I guess play my video games, 'Cause that's what I put everything into.
I can totally imagine
And
your
like
kid sitting next to you and playing your games and saying, "Oh, it's that stories, from there, from his life."
yeah, I've got a couple nieces and nephews, and they're very young, so they're a little too young to really appreciate my games. But I love showing them the stuff I'm working on because they're just young enough to think that it's really cool that their uncle gets to make a video game at all. But especially when they're older, I don't know if I'll have kids, but at the very least, I know these children in my life exist, and someday they'll be old enough that they can really sit down and appreciate this thing I've made and really get to know their uncle.
True,
And
true,
if
true.
I ever do have kids, it'll be the same way. It's
Nice.
time for you guys to sit down and learn the story of your old man.
The fight that he had, right, with all these monsters and
Yeah,
cool people that he met.
yeah,
Nice. Okay.
yeah. Playing other people's games is such a great way to get to know them.
Okay.
I like I mentioned before, I test a lot of games, and I was talking to my friend Iron Brew the other day. He's working on a video game, and when I tested his game, like it's a very silly game, but even in such a silly game, so irreverent and it's just packed with jokes, there's still a heart in there where like I get this guy's struggle, like I understand
Yeah.
what he's been through and what he's thinking about. Like I don't know. I feel like it's almost impossible to make a game and put so much work into it without injecting so much of yourself into them.
True, I totally agree with you, and I think like those people who had the same or at least like similar stories and exact moments in their life, they will totally understand the message of those games that they play. Like for example, if you lose someone in your
Absolutely.
life and the game resonates with you with that story of losing somebody, you will totally understand the creator behind that message and that story in the game, right? So
Yeah.
and it's a very nice
There's
thing to
a
have. Like it's also a relief for players, for us players, to enjoy these stories and cry together. With the developer not
yeah
being there, but still there. Like it's very interesting to see that.
yeah. It's kind of there in spirit.
Yeah, true, true.
Um, yeah. There's the classic argument if video games are art, which like of course they're art. Like
They
there's
are.
there's no
Yeah,
argument there.
yeah,
But
exactly.
the first time I had to convince someone of that, I told them the story of Final Fantasy VII. Mild spoilers, or they're huge spoilers, but it's a very old game, so I feel comfortable saying this. We all know that one of the main characters dies, and um, Hironobu Sakaguchi, I believe he was the one who had this story about how his mother died on a train crash, and he wanted to explore those feelings through his game, and that's why originally a different character was going to die, but he felt that'd be a little too predictable, so he killed off this specific beloved character. And when I told that story, it's just like, of course that's going to be art. Like how in the world is that not art? And even if you don't know this story about Sakaguchi's mother, you still resonate. Like this is a story about loss, and it's a real emotion that people
True,
go through.
true.
And for some people, they've lost loved ones, and they resonate with that because they know that experience, they know that pain. And for other people who haven't lost someone, it allows them to emulate that pain in a way. For a moment, they can empathize because you've never lost someone in real life, but this party member died, and that's a less of a loss. But nevertheless, like you're sad about that, and you can
Yeah,
understand like when a party member in real life dies,
yeah,
like
because you
how
build up
tragic that is.
connections with those characters that you play with.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's really important.
Yeah,
Okay, Kolokoko asks, how can you test so many games, Sawyer? What motivates you to test so many?
he loves games.
Um,
Loves playing games.
yeah, I love games. That's a big one.
So it's easy for him,
It's
right?
like you said.
Let's say that.
Yeah, yeah. It's about developing each other. It helps me get to know people. I get to test their games, and not only do I get to know them through their games, but then I get to talk to them about it. I get to sit down with them. I tell them, this is what I think you're going for. This is what I think works. This is what I think doesn't work, and I see how they respond to that. And I get to I get to go further with that and help someone out in a way, because if they tell me like this is what I was going for and it's not exactly working, I can inform them like, here's what I would do. Here's what I think would work for you. And then when their game finally comes out and I can see like I was able to help them reach that goal, like yeah, that feels great. It's awesome. Um, and of course, there's another thing with testing games, which is in that the server that I run, we have a little score system where you have a high score for how many games you've tested. And of course, I'm in first place. So I'm always testing just to make sure that I keep my ranking. You know, I gotta make sure that the top dog has his position. So that
The boss,
incentivizes me to
right?
test a little
The
too.
boss of
Yeah,
testers.
yeah.
Nice.
But it's mostly the first one that getting to know people and helping them out because I know what it's like to not be able to have someone to test your games, and it's the worst. It's so difficult to know if you're going in the right
True,
direction if there's
true,
no one else to play it.
true.
So with that understanding, being able to empathize with that, I try my best to give people what I know I needed. And of
That's
course,
very
like
nice
now
of
that
you
I've tested
because
so many
I
games,
was doing the same with motivating people because I remember when I had dreams and I started to grind my dreams. It's always like it was always like that I had barely like people surrounding me who were believing pretty much the same with the same passion in my dreams, and that's why I always motivate people to use their talents and not
yeah,
to give up. And it's pretty much having the lack of the helping hand around you, making you want to help others to realize what you never had back then or barely had. And yeah, it's very nice of you to do
exactly.
that. Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I just want to say, by the way, I love what you're doing here. You
Thank
hit
you.
me up on Twitter, and I was like, "Who is this guy? Like, is this a scam? He seems a little
No,
fishy."
no, no, no,
But
no, no, no.
when I checked out your channel and I saw what you're doing, I was like, "Man, like, this is what everyone needs." You know, like,
Thank you.
like we devs, we love talking about our
Thank you.
games, and we
Thank
love
you.
telling our stories and stuff.
And yeah, I'm
So
I'm
I
trying to
really
do it
appreciate.
like in a very different way when not just of course your craft matters, not just your game, but you as a person, because I feel like we are all
Yeah,
divided nowadays with this cancel culture of people hating and being too judgy about games, and they are most of the players nowadays are not understand correctly the mechanics and all the things that are around of making games, and that's why they do not see behind the curtain as well, and they are not understanding the actual people who are making these beautiful games, and also they are beautiful human
yeah,
beings, complex beings, as you said. And like you said also, I totally agree with you on that as well, that these stories are made by people who want to put out their stories, and even if they are just a portion of a team who create, I don't know, art or music, they are still gear in a bigger skin, and they are still like putting their heart or mind or body into those games. And that's the problem with nowadays with a lot of players, that they do not see that. They just see the actual
yeah,
product, and they see that, okay, I need to buy this game for this amount of price, and okay, it's pricey, I won't buy it because this and that, and they are willing to judge even with the harshest statements. And I feel like that's what I'm always saying, is that like people are willing to judge games and everything else, but especially let's stay at games. They judge games in a very, very harsh way since they have real life issues, and they are willing to put it on the table when they are judging, others' work. If they have,
yeah,
if they are having a bad day at work, or I don't know, they lost somebody, or they, I don't know, broke up with their girlfriend or boyfriend, they are willing to sit down and just play games in a bad mood and judge and write Steam reviews, which is a bad thing to have, because like if a developer is a person who takes these negative opinions to his or her heart, it can reflect developers in a very bad way. And we are living in an era
yeah,
of the game industry where players are now even are going forward with it, with their opinions, even being able to threat like the developers. And it sucks to see that, because like, especially I'm always bringing up this example of The Last of Us had this exact example where like people hated the developers and the authors especially for like
uh-huh,
killing the main character in the second part, and they went to the author's house and like wanted him dead. And it was
yeah.
like so strange to read that, like, come on, why are these
I
people
was
are so,
appalled.
yeah, they were obsessed with. And it's weird to see that because these people are so obsessed with these characters and stories, which is great in one hand. Like it's great to have
Yeah,
this fan base of people who
the
can
passion
totally,
is good.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. They are not just fans, they can totally like relate to this story. And it's a great thing, but they are at the end of the day they are getting so obsessed and so sad about some decisions that they might it's not I think it's not even the decision that they are not agreeing with, it's the loss of somebody that's important to them. And I feel like especially with the
yes,
example of The Last of Us, when somebody who was close to them died, probably that's what like pissed off a lot of players so much that they probably lost someone who was very like close to them and precious to them, so that's why they were very angry about this decision of the story making part.
yeah. Well, it's a complicated thing because like it's so easy to obfuscate the human element,
True.
especially in these huge budget games with like hundreds of people working on them.
True.
And yet, I feel the moment you decide to pick out an individual and target them for harassment or other things, like you have to acknowledge the human behind there.
True.
And at that
True.
point, it's like I mean I've never harassed someone in that way before. Like we've all made mistakes, but it's so weird imagining someone going to that level and then not realizing like that's a person. You know,
True. True.
that's a
True.
human being. They've
Yeah.
got a life. They have opinions. Um, I feel like most people would get that far and then kind of have a moment of clarity and realize like, hang on, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, like some people they don't have that moment and they hurt others.
Yeah.
It's I do agree with you that there's a level of empathy to be had for people that are upset by art not taking like not going in the direction that they want. Um, it's happened to all of us. We've all been fans of something
True.
that goes somewhere, and then you're like, man, this kind of sucks. But
True.
at the end of the day, you have to remember like people make games. There's literally a YouTube channel called People Make Games that I love. But you have to remember like there's humans and they all make decisions. Some of these decisions may be mistakes, but at the end of the day, you have to acknowledge this is art, and the only reason it matters to you at all is because someone made it. And if you don't like what they did, make your own art.
True.
Go out there,
True.
tell
Understand
your story.
yourself by making art, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's something I like to do a lot. Is there are games that I don't like, and instead of spending too much time on them, like I spend a little bit of time in negativity because I think there's a lot to learn from what we don't like about games. But instead of directing that at the people that made them, just like learn from it. Do what you think you would do better.
True.
If you don't like a game mechanic, then in your own game, try to improve on that.
True.
Turn it into something constructive.
True. True. There's a comment people were hating on the actor too for just doing her job. I hate it, The Last of Us too, but no one deserves that. True. 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 True.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
As for me, for example,
Especially in,
I loved the decision that they put into the story, but yeah, everyone has their own opinion.
yeah, I haven't played Last of Us myself, so I don't know the nitty gritty details. I know what happens, so I it sounds like an interesting decision to make. I'm not against it, but again, like I don't know these characters, so perhaps if I did, I would feel differently. But oftentimes people do they kind of jump to the conclusion that the best thing for the characters is the best thing for the story, and that's not always the case. Um, I forgot who this quote is from. It was someone that made Star Wars. I don't think it was George Lucas though. I think it might have been Steven Spielberg or someone else. But it was that the famous reveal in Empire Strikes Back. It only works because it was the last thing that Luke Skywalker needed to hear. It was the worst thing he could possibly have heard. And when they try to carry that twist into other films, it doesn't work as well because, uh, for example, Rey, all she wants is to know who her lineage is. So telling her that she's the granddaughter of a very important person is the best thing that's the best news you could give her. So it really does depend on what the story is and where it needs to go. Sometimes you have to do bad things to characters.
True.
And through doing those things, they're able to confront their emotions and deal with those problems. And then we as people can confront those emotions as well. I bet all the people that were upset about that character dying in Last of Us They were dealing with the same thing that what was her name, Ellie? Yeah, they're dealing with the same thing. The game is about those themes, the themes of revenge. So I apologize, the alarm's going off. It's like revenge is one of the main themes of that game. So it's almost ironic in a way that they played through that game and instead of internalizing the themes and seeing what the game is trying to say, they
Yeah,
did
but
the
I
same
feel
thing that
like,
the game was.
yeah, sorry for interrupting you. I feel like
No, yeah, please.
people who hate it or didn't like the story, I feel like, I know it's very harsh to say for me, but I have a very strong opinion about especially the Last of Us story, that I think there are stories in games in general and in movies as well, which are so greatly done that they are like mirror reflection to our real life problems and to us as humans who are making mistakes. And that's why I feel like The Last of Us 2 story did not work for some players, because they could see themselves in a mirror when playing that game.
Yeah.
And when you know, we as humans mostly, if we do look into the mirror by not in like, doing that in exact way, but realizing our mistakes in life through the form of art, we will be mad about it. We won't be mad
Oh,
about the
absolutely.
decisions like the characters are making. We will be mad about, even if we are not conscious about it, like in a strict way, right? Realizing, okay, it's us who made these decisions in real life too, but we will be aware at the back of our mind. And I totally feel that, because I had a discussion about it like with a lot of people, and who hated on the story pretty much, and we discussed it within a lot of hours. They stated, okay, it got to a point when I realized that, okay, I'm, as a human, I made a lot of mistakes through my life, and to see that these struggles that, for example, Ali have been through, or has been through, like all the mistakes she did throughout her life, just to realize, okay, she was like not doing the right thing, for example with the revenge. It was pretty much
Yeah.
the same for that person in real life. And that's what I feel like, it's that there are some stories, especially in books, when you are reading a book, like it's a mirror for you, with all your
Hmm.
mistakes to be, written, and be able to read out those mistakes. And I feel like that's why people can be very mad about it, because like you said,
Yeah.
there are not that what we have been discussing it earlier, like there are no like very bad stories. It's just people don't like it. But it's not that they, I feel like it's not that they don't like it, it's just either they do not understand the author who had the story. Because like you said, and I was totally agreeing with you that these stories are made because we are making these stories by ourselves, to ourselves, if you mean what I'm saying,
Yeah.
if you understand
It's
what
about
I'm saying. Yeah,
exploring.
so it's like a relief, always, like to tell a story from our heart in a form of art. It's like, for us, I think, who writes these stories, it's more like a relief for us, we could say. And also
Yeah.
like being able to like revisit our best memories as well, even if it's
Hmm.
it's not very intentional in all cases.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not always like a conscious
Yeah,
effort.
true,
Like
true, true,
I
true.
don't. I'm not literally like taking experiences in my life and
Yeah,
just being like,
like,
I'm going to put this in my game.
true, true, true,
But
true. It
nevertheless,
can
the
it can
emotions
happen
are
during
there.
the process. Yeah, if you sit down and
Yeah.
start writing a story, and even if, I don't know, something bad is happening at your job, at your workplace, you won't write it down. Okay, my boss, I don't know, gave me less money, but you will put it in another way. That's, I don't know, an orc, caught me up in
Yeah.
the, I don't know, forest, and he, I don't know.
Yeah. And I do think I understand that being confronted with difficult art that challenges like who you are as a person, it's difficult, of course. Like that's
True,
it's
true.
difficult art. But nevertheless, I think that's the most important art for us to experience,
Yes,
because it does make us examine things, makes us challenge ourselves and think like,
true.
is this really who I am? And if so, is this who I want to be? And if not, then what do I do to change that?
Yeah, but
It's yeah,
I
it's very
think that
important.
the case behind this, that people can make mistakes, is that like some people won't think about it, like you said. They will just turn their back, you know.
Yeah,
That's the problem. That's
and
and
that's really unfortunate.
and that's why I think that these bigger stories, or at least these very strict stories that are very brave enough to put everything on the screen, especially like Last of Us did, they should be like be at schools, for example, in my opinion. I know it's very hard
Yeah,
to
yeah, no.
say, but I hope everyone will get my point that these stories are those who or which should be at school, since like you understand the people behind those motivations, those actions, and like we as human beings can develop for a better human being by those learning from those mistakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if there is any. Okay, if there is any question, let us know.
This is true. This is true. It's very easy. Sleepy Sigmeyer says consumption of and engagement with media are very different metrics, and yeah, it's absolutely it's very easy to take something in without really tasting it. I think it's sort of like swallowing it whole, I guess. Um, but I do think we don't always have to engage with every single bit of media that we consume. But I think it's important to maybe retrospect on that media after the fact. Look back on what you just had when
True,
you're in a more introspective mood and be like, yeah, what was that I enjoyed? How did I feel about that?
true.
And yeah, like I think I don't think we have to have the interpretation lens on all the time in order to interpret everything that we consume. You know?
Yeah, yeah, but in my opinion, since like a lot of us are not developing their emotional like knowledge, which would
Hmm.
be needed to have in order to understand these stories. Like for example, if somebody is like laughing if they are seeing a loss of somebody, it's not correct in my opinion. Like those people are the ones who are not understanding somebody's loss, because either they did not have those moments in their life, or either they had, but they are running away from those moments of their life, like they are trying to close it down in a box, and not thinking about it because it's very bad to them to think about it. And it's sad to see people like that, because I had friends like this, especially with this example, who had loss in their life, and they were just laughing on movies when they saw someone dying, and I was like, hey man,
Yeah.
you had, I don't know, your father dying or somebody and too close to you, and like they were always saying this, that it doesn't matter, like I forgot it, like, and come on man, it's your father or somebody close to you, like it's bullshit, like you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
say that. And it's like people, that's why I'm always saying that people, it's a very strict and common thing to say, that most people say in our world, that it's good to close our past. But I'm always saying this, that nobody is closing their past in the fact in our everyday life. Some of us is just running away from it, but it's running along with us. And that's why I always
Yeah, and I
appreciate
mean,
people like you who are willing to grab their past and make stories about it, and relive it, even if they are bad memories, because that's how
yeah,
we develop ourselves, because we are willing to learn. That's why there is a quote in, I think, in every language, that we are humans, or how is it, sounds like learning from history, right, or something like, no, history repeats itself, right?
his history
Yeah.
repeats.
and that,
Yes,
and
yes.
and the fact is, because like, why? Because like nobody's questioning it, because like we are humans, we as humans are making the same mistakes, we are not learning from our mistakes, we are not willing to
Hmm.
learn from our mistakes. Only those like you, for example, who are willing to like revisiting those bad moments in their life, and also could think as a happy moments about, even if it was a very bad memory of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people refer to art as escapism, that they're
True,
running
true,
away from the
true,
troubles in their life.
true,
And I think there's a degree of that, but in my opinion, I feel like the most important art is the opposite of escapism. It
true,
forces you to confront things in your
true,
life.
true, true, true,
You have
and
to
challenge yourself as well.
look it in the face. Yeah,
Yeah.
look in the face, challenge yourself, and decide like, yeah, it's time to confront how I feel about these
True,
things.
true, true. Okay, we discussed a lot of topics.
Yes, we have. Yeah, this is very fruitful.
Yeah, I appreciate your words and you being honest about everything. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
let
no,
us.
I had a lot of fun here.
Me too, on my side as well. Okay, let us know if there is anything that you would like to discuss, or there is any question for the game or for any other topic that you were interested in hearing. Thank you,
Yeah,
Sleepy.
absolutely.
Thank you, and I appreciate everyone's time and your time as well here. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I
Thanks
will
for
have
showing up, everyone.
some moments with you after the stream if it's okay, if you have still time.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll be on a train to my friend's place, so I'll have plenty of free time to talk.
okay. Looks like I might have come here at the end. It's okay. You will be able to
Yeah,
watch back the VOD, and I will also have an edited version. So if you will check back later, I will also post it on my Instagram. And yeah, and also I said before that I will have our friend here on my Discord channel. So if you would like to ask him something, then make sure you join our Discord server as well. So yeah, but I'm sure that we will meet
absolutely.
again. So right, I'm sure that
Yeah, oh, of
let's
course.
keep in
Yeah, please,
touch. Yeah,
anytime.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Wishlist the new game that he's making, Silver Days, and also buy
Yes,
his
I'm.
old games and try it out and
Oh,
play it
yes.
through.
Axial Disc One is free. It's completely 100% off.
Okay,
So,
nice,
if you want to try it, there's no
nice.
risk.
Okay,
But yeah, I'm very proud of Silver Days and what it's becoming, and I cannot wait for you guys to play it. Um, the demo will be coming soon.
okay,
I don't want to give a release date for that yet, but once it does, you'll see for yourself just how awesome it is.
nice. Thank you,
Well,
everyone. Thank you,
yeah,
and I hope that you enjoyed our show here. Thank you. Okay, thanks everyone for being here. Thank you. Have a great evening and day, depending where you live, and bye bye. Bye bye.
yeah.